This is America in Space, a weekly news and information program on current events dealing with the space industry.
Welcome, and thanks for joining me today. I'm Dawn Meyer, Space Coast News Editor. The Martian rover InSight has gone silent. It succumbed to the dust on Mars. Here's a summary from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory on InSight's mission.
InSight has been fantastically successful. We've gotten more science than we had ever dreamed that we would get during the course of this mission. InSight's primary goal was to better understand how the terrestrial planets, the rocky planets, formed and evolved.
First, we landed an incredibly sensitive seismometer on the surface of Mars, and with that we were able to record over 1,300 Mars quakes.
And these range all the way from tiny little tremblers that just barely go over the noise background to a handful of quakes that were larger than magnitude 4.
And feeling those vibrations, the scientists can actually take that information and use that to reconstruct all the material that those Mars quakes traveled through and thereby see the interior of the planet.
We looked at its core, which is big and not very dense. We looked at its mantle, which is not so hot. And we looked at its crust, which is not too thick and not too dense compared to some of our pre-mission expectations.
By measuring the detailed structure of the inside of Mars, it gives us a snapshot of what the planet looked like 4.5 billion years ago. The other thing that we've been able to do is make a very detailed record of the weather at Mars. So we have a really good weather station, which has allowed meteorologists to study the weather at the InSight landing site and relate that to the climate changes on Mars.
What we didn't do, unfortunately, was make the heat flow measurement we wanted to make. Our heat flow probe was supposed to get 3 to 5 meters down, and we were unable to reach that depth.
But we were able to get some of those measurements, such as the heat transfer amongst the soil.
InSight is a solar-powered mission. We have solar panels, and they were designed to give us enough power to easily get through the first 2 years.
But there's a lot of dust in Mars' atmosphere, and that's falling down on top of our solar arrays and slowly blocking the sun.
As the panels are getting dustier, we started racking our brains with whether there's anything we can do to try to clean off those panels ourselves.
When the idea of using dirt to clean the solar arrays was first proposed, it seemed counterintuitive.
We were actually able to use the arm and the scoop to scoop up some soil from the ground and dump it over the lander, having some of that heavier sand blow onto the arrays and knock some of the dust off. So we essentially used it as an array cleaning tool.
Cleaning with dirt actually worked.
It allowed us to actually keep the instruments going during the low power season where the Mars is farthest from the sun during the winter. Unfortunately, later this summer, we think that the power is going to be dropping so quickly due to the atmosphere getting dustier, due to the alignment of Mars and the sun.
We're going to be at a point where we can no longer have all of our instruments on, which means we'll be turning off the seismometer and other instruments on board.
The last day is going to be bittersweet. Obviously, we're preparing for it. We know it's coming. But that first moment where we don't hear from the lander when we expect to, that's going to be tough.
It's left a permanent mark on me, and I literally tattooed InSight onto my arm. I'll never let it go.
We've really rewritten sort of the chapter of the encyclopedia on the interior of Mars. That was our last big hole in our understanding of the planet.
There's a lot of data that people are going to be looking at for decades to come.
We accomplished so many of our science goals, and we're going to have something to look back on and be proud.
The rover actually tweeted a message on December the 15th, 2022, that it was going to be shutting down soon. Here is more on that emotional tweet from News Center, Maine.
A tweet from a distant robot is stirring up some emotions on Twitter. It came from a robotic rover called InSight, which is studying the geology of Mars. The account tweeted a picture of the lander in the late afternoon sun saying, "My power's really low, so this may be the last image I can send. Don't worry about me though, my time here has been both productive and serene. If I can keep talking to my mission team, I will, but I'll be signing off here soon. Thanks for staying with me."
We weren't joking about the emotional part. Can you believe that? From a robot. All right, so InSight was launched in 2018. It was expected to last only 2 years, but back in July, NASA switched it to low power mode because of dust buildup on the solar panels there. InSight is designed to study the deep interior of Mars to give us a better idea about how rocky planets form. It also had a microphone allowing us to hear Mars for the first time. While it's on its journey, it also detected some seismic activity. They're not called earthquakes there, obviously. They're called Mars quakes. And also some yet-to-be-explained magnetic events.
Sadly, the rover is silent now. After operating for 4 years on Mars, the mission was declared by NASA to be over after the lander missed 2 communication attempts. NASA will continue to listen for a signal from the lander just in case, but hearing from it at this point is considered unlikely. Here's the declaration by NASA.
Mission managers have ended the InSight mission on Mars after consecutive attempts to contact the spacecraft failed. InSight spent more than 4 years collecting unique science about the interior layers of Mars that is helping us better understand all rocky planets, including Earth.
Bruce Bandert of JPL, the mission's principal investigator, said, "We've thought of InSight as our friend and colleague on Mars for the past 4 years. It's hard to say goodbye. But it has earned its richly deserved retirement." Thank you for joining me. Remember each Tuesday to join David Denault for America's Return to Space, and join me every Friday for America in Space. From the Florida Space Coast, I'm Dawn Meyer, Space Coast News Editor for About Space Today.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to share our program with your family and friends and follow us on Facebook. Join us each week for news and information on America in Space.